What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube channel, and thank you guys for tuning in to our first BC Lions post game of 2025. We are coming at you guys after the BC Lions 31-14 win over the Edmonton Elks in the season opener finale of kickoff weekend in the CFL. Game number 4 in week number 1, and the BC Lions took it home in their season opener. But not only was it their season opener, but of course, it was the much anticipated concert kickoff as well for the fourth straight year. The BC Lions opening up their season with a concert as well before the game, with Snoop Dogg playing this year. Man, was it ever a show, and man, was it ever exciting to be there in person this year for I've been lucky enough to be of the last 4 years in the house for two of them. Excuse me, three of them actually. Um, and they've been all great except for the one, the only one that I haven't was the first one, and was able to go to LL Cool J. That one was awesome. And then of course last year going to 50 Cent, and this year Snoop Dogg. Um, First and foremost, before we get into any even reminders today, talking about my experience with even being down on the field. Actually, we might as well get into the reminders, and then we'll kind of get into our initial thoughts here momentarily. If you guys are enjoying all the content that we've been uploading, not only on our Instagram, our YouTube, our Twitter as well, please leave us a like on this video. Please feel free to leave us a comment down below as well. And not only that, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated as we push towards 400 subscribers. So subscribing to the channel is most important right now as we are trying to grow the YouTube channel more and more. Of course, the Instagram is doing well right now. As you can see down below, you can follow us at Canadian Football Fanatics, closing in on 3,000 followers over there, averaging about, half a million, 500K views per month right now. So doing really well, doing a lot of good things over there. So if you guys aren't following us, head over there. We're doing some good stuff over on Twitter as well, doing some basically uploading most of our same content over there as well. And yeah, be sure to follow us at _CF Fanatics on Twitter as well. And like I said, subscribing to the channel, we are pushing towards 400 subscribers. And of course, the reminder, as always, folks, 75% of you in the YouTube studio analysts that we get shown of our YouTube channel that are consuming our content are unsubscribed. So if you guys could subscribe, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And it would just be the nice thing to do. So let's get into my initial thoughts. And that's how post game is going to kind of work. I'll get into my initial thoughts. We'll get into a little bit of a kind of somewhat of a game review. Tonight is going to be a little bit different. I will say, folks, I'm pretty tired. I don't know if people can see that. It's 1:30 a.m. right now. I currently am just getting home. Probably actually got home about 45 minutes ago. The downside of living on Vancouver Island, unfortunately, having to take the ferry after the game, and just walking in the door, wanted to do our post-game show so we could get to you guys in the morning. This is a late one. I'm sure you could tell by my eyes. I'm sure I'm gonna go watch this one back, and it'll be pretty funny to see how tired I look. But that being said, it's been a long day, but it has been a day that's been worth it for sure to be back in BC Place, taking in some CFL football. And that is where I need to start first and foremost with a great big thank you to one Matt Baker. Matt has been very gracious and very kind over the last year, giving myself a lot of access down on the field on game days with the field pass and media pass and stuff like that. So another huge shout out and thank you to Matt for always hooking us up and being a real one. Matt once again gave us a field pass for this game. Was able to go down, take in and get a lot of good content for you guys pre-game. Already uploaded a few of those stuff on our Instagram channel. Upload them on YouTube in a bit here. And with what I was saying, the concert kickoff, the 4th annual one, as I mentioned, taking in the LL Cool J one, as well as the 50 Cent one last year. was super cool, but I was also kind of not sitting maybe the closest to the stage, which still a great opportunity being in the building and just seeing those artists live, especially 50 Cent. Snoop Dogg was another one. 50 Cent was kind of, a guy that's on like kind of my Mount Rushmore, I would say, rappers growing up as a kid, along with Snoop Dogg. Another one, obviously, Ice Cube. I've seen those artists perform for people that maybe not know. The first concert I actually ever went to was a Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube concert when Snoop Dogg was playing his Blue Carpet album. He brought Ice Cube along, and it was actually for my 10th birthday, and my mom brought me to that one of all concerts. Shout out to Ma. But he is Snoop Dogg is a guy that I've loved forever, and having the opportunity to go see him again was something that I was most definitely doing, access or not. Matt granted us access, and I was blessed enough to be on the field for pregame, stick around for the concert, and take it in with some pretty close looks. So it was a super cool opportunity, and wouldn't have happened without Matt Baker. So um, huge salute to Baker, and thank you, Bakes. I really appreciate you for all the opportunities that you've given us over the last few years. Is not taken for granted. So, continuing with the concert, I think it was a great one. I did joke with the girlfriend a little bit on the way home that I thought there was a few times maybe Snoop was trying to get the crowd into it, and I don't know if the crowd was maybe too familiar with the Snoop's catalog, which is okay. I know he played some of his bangers, and I think most fans are probably more familiar with like the chorus of a lot of songs. So that was kind of funny, but to see him play a lot of cool songs was a cool thing for me. Like I said, being as close as I was, so um, just a great way to kick off the year. As I mentioned, I got a really bunch of good stuff pre-game. I already uploaded being able to be right on the field for the Lions coming out of the tunnel. Go check that video. I'll go upload it to the YouTube afterwards. It's going to be a really sweet one. You guys should enjoy that one. And yeah, there's going to be some other ones that I should be uploading. So stay tuned. I won't. I'll just tease for now. We won't spoil. And like I said, all that wouldn't happen without one Matt Baker. So shout out to Matt Baker once again. I'm sure we'll be doing that quite a bit throughout the season. So um, initial thoughts, it was a unfortunate slow game. Slow start, I guess I should say. I shouldn't say a slow game, because the Lions turned it on in the second half, which was a good thing. It was a tough one when you get a crowd of what was announced of 52,837. So not a complete sellout, but really close to a great atmosphere. And as I mentioned in my keys to success, taking advantage of the atmosphere, the Lions did not do that, unfortunately. So was a bit of a bummer. I believe it was 7-3 at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. The Lions end up going to score 28 points in the second half. That being said, they still took, 7-3 at halftime. It was a very slow start for both teams. That being said, though, it wasn't a slow start on the field for the Lions. They end up getting a tune-out to start the game. Gary Peters almost comes away with the interception on the second down, and the Lions get the ball early on in the first quarter and march right down the field. And Rourke puts them in position from the goal line to bring in the short yardage team and have them surge over the goal line for the major. And unfortunately, folks, it is not that easy. So Chase Price goes 0 for 2 from the goal line and is unable to punch it in. And the second down was a definite he didn't get in. Third down, he initially got stopped, but wasn't down. It was, I think, initially stopped because of the surge from the defensive line, kind of pushed one of the offensive linemen back into Chase Price. He kind of kept his feet and tried to keep going. Unfortunately, didn't get too much help from the outside of the offensive line and the rest of the receivers blocking, and got some more pressure into his face, and was unable to um, get to the goal line. What was originally called a touchdown, though, I think they wanted to maybe probably call it a touchdown just so they could review it, just in case, God forbid they're wrong. They can always go back and just kind of fix things, regardless if it was vice versa, and they call it short and they can't go back. So, call it a touchdown, go back and make sure. I think, he was clearly short and was a sign of things to come when it comes to Chase Bryce. The Lions end up getting the football back, and I believe end up marching down the field and getting into some field goal position. And what should have been a touchdown from Javon Toy, I believe this drive was a drop in the end zone. What should have been a big afternoon, or what should have been just a better afternoon, I should say, from Javon Toy, was unfortunately started off by a drop. Wasn't started off, I believe it was maybe his second or third target. He caught his first few, if I'm not mistaken, and unfortunate, ran a little post pattern, beat his defender for sure, and just kind of double caught it, or kind of just almost handcuffed him. Kind of maybe the placement, he almost maybe kind of overjudged it in terms of where he placed his hands. So it was unfortunate for Javon in terms of he did have a pretty good day with 7 receptions for 88 yards. Would have been at least 8 for 100 and a touchdown if he caught that ball for sure. So it's funny as I'm looking at my eyes, I could already see how tired I look. Um, so it was an unfortunate one. The Lions end up settling for a field goal because they end up coming back out, I believe, that third drive, and Chase Bryce ends up going 0 for 3 in short yardage situations, and another one around midfield in the first quarter alone. So, you know, probably, maybe not, I don't want to say cause for concern in week one because, there's, I think, some, you know, legitimacy with week one, but there is also a lot of weird things that happen in week one, a lot of maybe outliers is maybe a word you could use when it comes to week one, and they don't always tell the truth. So weird things happen in week one all the time, and teams can maybe end up a lot different than maybe the way they start. So that being said, I just want to kind of maybe hold off on saying it's a total disaster in terms of the short yardage situation as a whole. When it comes to a guy like Chase Bryce, I don't think Chase Bryce is the ideal short yardage quarterback in terms of guy that went to a American University college, probably not too familiar with the situation of kind of how you have to be maybe good at, not necessarily good at it. And I know that probably sounds a little weird with a lot of Americans, obviously not a lot of Canadians being in that situation, but I just think he's also his stature and kind of his size of not being the longest quarterback maybe, and he is kind of thick, and he has some weight behind him a little bit for sure, but I definitely don't think he's ideal, and I definitely don't think Masoli's ideal, which is the unfortunate one, which to me means that you probably like I guess dressing three is best case scenario, but if you ever need, I feel like a roster spot, going to dress two, I feel like is maybe something that you could do if you have to. One game Masoli, one game Bryce. If you want a one game Bryce for he does have he can do the short yardage duties versus Masoli. I know Farhan Lalji alluded to it on social media during the game of potentially a guy like Xander Horvath wearing a David Mackey's number 34. Looks kind of like a taller, slender Mackey, and plays running back, but has, I think, a little bit of familiarity kind of being like that tight end, fullback, H-back in the NFL. So could possibly be a candidate as an athletic type, as we're seeing more and more people adapt to that style in the CFL. So it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I know Nathan Rourke was asked post game and said, "I will do anything that the team asks." I think that as valuable as that is, and as maybe much as you can weaponize Rourke in that shortage package, I don't know if it's worth risking Rourke long term in a freak injury of guys rolling up in a pile. Weird things happen and legs get tangled up, and all it takes is, a guy falling on Nate's leg and he's done for the year of, something that happens of we saw in 2022 in Saskatchewan and breaking, a Liz Frank injury. So something that I caution and maybe wonder if they lean towards a guy like Xander Horvath long term in short yardage situations with the struggles of Chase Bryce tonight going 0 for 3 in those situations. So moving on, we continue throughout the first half and pretty boring rest of the first half, if I do say so myself. The Elks end up going to score a touchdown and missing the extra point. They ended up having a rouge to make it 7. They had the rouge early on. It was 3-1. It was a hockey game. It was a Vancouver Canucks Edmonton Oilers hockey game early on, 3-1. And then the Edmonton Elks scored a touchdown and missed the extra point, making it 7-3. And to talk about the defense maybe now, as we're talking about the offense quite a bit here, to not stay too long tonight, probably looking to go half an hour, 45 minutes. At this point, probably 45 minutes, because I want to go to bed for sure. I can feel my eyes like getting heavier and heavier. Um, Talking about the defense now, the first half performance from the defense, I thought outside of and I was tweeting it from the game. Contain Trey Ford, and I think the defense. I think was my first tweet. Maybe I can go back here and try to pull it up, or maybe even if any of my friends from Twitter are watching right now, try to bring it up here quickly of the first one that I had of trying to contain Trey Ford, because the first one was just like I feel like if contain Trey Ford, yeah. Priority number one should be containing Trey Ford. If the defense can do that, they'll be in good shape. And you know, they did do a pretty good job of it throughout the first half. I think just unfortunate timing kind of it arose for them, especially maybe on that scoring drive. It came up other points throughout the game. Looking down, Trey Ford finished with 6 carries for 54 yards, so not too bad. All's considering, it was mostly first half damage, if I do say so. Off feeling, anyways. I would like to go rewatch this tomorrow or Sunday, but today by the time you guys are watching this, um, and just kind of get a better feel of how much he was scrambling around and how did they maybe do a better job than I kind of gave them credit for off my initial watch of the game in terms of containing Trey Ford, because I think that was priority number one. To talk about the Edmonton Elks a little bit, the reason why I've been high on the Elks the last few years, predicted them third last year, didn't look so good. Um, this year picked them fourth. I struggle with putting them at, third, potentially even thought about putting them at second for a little bit. The receiving core, when looking at the receiving core, just not really trusting, excuse me. I love that they have Canadians because obviously we're the Canadian Football Fanatics and we root for all the Canadians and we cover a lot of Canadian football. That's kind of our brand, that's our thing. But Curly Giddens Jr., Keon Julian Grant, I think are more fit to be number twos, both number twos, solid number twos as well, pushing to be number ones. I just don't think they're legitimate number ones, and I think when you try to make them, it kind of maybe limits them or just doesn't allow them to play at their full potential because of the coverage they're commanding and attention they're commanding. And then when you look at a guy like Steven Dunbar, who had some success in Hamilton last year, but when he came to the Edmonton Elks the first time, didn't have too much success. Then tries to come back now. We'll see what happens. It's obviously week one, folks, so trying to overreact to everything is probably not the ideal thing and something that we're not going to do, but just a few talking points tonight. I wonder how Trey will do throughout the season when it comes to spreading the ball around with his weapons. When you look at those three weapons, Steven Dunbar, 2 receptions for 16 yards. Keon Julian Grant, 2 receptions for 8 yards. Curly Giddens Jr., 1 reception for 1 yard. They had a combined 5 receptions for 25 yards. Not great from your, top 3 trio, in the offense. Trey ultimately goes 18 for 27 for 178. 0 touchdowns and an interception. Not ideal for sure. Getting back into the Lions, I thought they did a pretty good job throughout the first half. Defensively, other than the few times they allowed Trey to get out the pocket. So to get into the second half now, because we're going to do a quick turnaround here, folks, is when Nathan Rourke showed up and turned it on and really said, you know what, enough is enough. Enough of our kind of lulls here in the first half. Let's get in gear. And they went with, I believe it was back-to-back scoring drives to start the second half, finding Stanley Berryhill on back-to-back touchdowns. And it was just an unfortunate thing because I think the first quarter they looked pretty crisp. As I said, the first 2 drives, they're driving the football in the scoring position. The first one, they get a turnover on downs, not getting into the touchdown on the quarterback sneak. The second one should have had 6 with the touchdown, end up settling for a field goal. Second quarter was much different for the BC Lions. I think they were stalling on offense due to a little bit of pressure getting to Nathan and some penalties that were happening as well, putting them behind the 8 ball a little bit. The third quarter, they absolutely flipped the switch and turned things on. So it was a little bit of a, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, ups and downs that comes with the games and comes with the season for the BC Lions. Nothing is perfect, but you know, you win and you move on to the next one. You watch the film, obviously, and you're on to the next one. Lions in the third quarter, as I said, back-to-back scoring drives capped off by Stanley Berryhill. Touchdowns from Nathan Rourke. Beautiful corner route to start. And then the next one, opposite. Deep corner route. The first one, post route, deep down the middle on the second one. Beautiful ball from Nathan Rourke. And he finished with Stanley Berryhill 6 receptions, 105, and 2 tutties. A phenomenal afternoon evening for one Stanley Berryhill. And I think if he can continue to contribute in that role in the offense, the Lions will go a long way this season. And it'll be interesting to see how the teams continue to try to guard a lot of these guys. I think they, when you look at the, totality of the receiving core, I think this is what we should maybe get used to in terms of the receiving core. Maybe one guy having some big numbers and then the rest of the guys kind of being contributors in meaningful downs, second and longs. When, one guy's going off, they maybe not expect because of it's a different guy every other week, right? Say it's McInnes this week, it's Javon Couture next week, it's Hatcher this week, it's Berryhill next week, it's Berryhill this week, so they maybe the defense is focusing on him. The other guy's chipping in allows that coverage to be taken off of the other guy, freeing him up, allowing him to still see coverage when it's going to all the other receivers, as Nathan Rourke does so well, spreading the ball around. So Berryhill finished with 6 receptions, Couture with 7, Hatcher with 452, McInnes with 545, and a touchdown. Basically, Hatcher, McInnes around 50 yards, 4 or 5 receptions each. Couture 7 receptions, 88 yards. As I said, Couture probably should have had a bigger afternoon as well. And to continue in the third quarter, the dominant performance pretty much continued for the defense. They allowed one more touchdown that kind of kept the Elks in the game a little bit. It was much due to the scrambling, unable to contain Trey Ford in the pocket. He had, I think, what Farhan Lalji said, 18, 20-second play. Trey Ford scrambling right. What looked like the BC Lions had a contain on him with, I believe, I believe was the defender. And he scrambles right, gets cut off by Boyu, gets cut off by, I think, Betts, ends up bending it back around, ends up going about 20 or so yards behind his line of scrimmage, finding Rankin deep down the middle of the field for a reception. Rankin breaks the field's tackles, takes it down the goal line. They end up punching it in for short yardage. Cody Fajardo had both their touchdowns for quarterback sneaks. But other than that, the BC Lions cruise to victory after this point. They get into the fourth quarter, and Justin McInnes was able to chip in with his first touchdown, as I mentioned. And then the party really started when Ben Hladek picked off Trey Ford. Took it 61 yards, I think I heard on the play-by-play, down the field, setting up the BC Lions to punch it in with James. Butler. So to get into a few things before we get out of here, 25 minutes, we will talk. Let's see here as I bring up a few notes that I was taking down. Um, yeah, talked about BC defense being pretty solid. We'll talk about Nathan Rourke here in a little bit. Yeah, so to kind of put a little bit of a bow on the game, we'll talk offensively, we'll talk defensively quickly. Defensively, I thought the defensive line was quietly solid, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. Matthew Betts, from the few plays in the first half, I was ISO camming him, looked to be getting off the line of scrimmage very fast. He was jumping on, I believe it's Martez Ivy, the offensive tackle for the Edmonton Elks, getting so close to Trey Ford, and Trey Ford was letting go of the ball. It was definitely the first quarter that I was kind of mostly watching Matthew Betts, wanting to see what he was looking like early, looking good. Didn't really see or hear from him too much throughout the rest of the game, to be honest. That being said, he did have a few other plays, maybe just kind of forgetting about them as well. I do remember now that I'm thinking about a tackle for loss that he did have. The addition of Dwayne Hendricks had been talked about, you know, from a few people throughout the BC Lions organization, Matt Baker, Nick Wolski on the First and Now podcast, of the addition of Dwayne Hendricks kind of being bringing the physicality to the BC Lions that they've lacked in the last few years. He steps up and kind of a team sack with Jonah Tavai up the middle more so than anything, which you love to see with the two defensive tackles kind of collapsing the pocket in on Trey Ford, the elusive quarterback, and had nowhere to go, bringing them down for, like I said, mostly a team sack. I don't even want to say the defensive end could have been Kameka Toure in that brought him down on the sack, but um, yeah, maybe they did credit them both each for half sack, and it wasn't one sack each. I will go back and check. CFL Stats has it as one sack each, but I don't remember Trey getting sacked off the top of my head. Like I said, I'm gonna go back actually and rewatch just to see how many total sacks we did end up getting. But off the top of my head, I only remember one throughout the game. Um, Definitely throughout a 18-game season, though, would like to see maybe production start to come up um, a little bit more in terms of, getting some pressure. And obviously, Trey Ford is a unique one of one type of quarterback in the CFL. So maybe we'll see what happens when it comes to even a guy like Chris Trevor is a different type of quarterback, but a guy like Zach Caleros, Trevor Harris, Davis Alexander, some of these pocket passers, Drew Brown, guys that aren't gonna, run all over the place, run 20 yards back and then throw 50 yards that way. So it'll be definitely, maybe take a breath, Cole. It's week one. Let's let the defensive line see how they kind of get used to, Kamek Toure specifically get kind of his feet wet in the CFL game first, and as they work as a unit first as well. The linebackers, I thought they did well. They did well limiting Rankin on the ground. 7 carries for 24 yards. Phenomenal job. And, in the air, Rankin had a pretty good showing. One big play with the 37-yarder, as I mentioned, from Trey Ford's scrambled ability. Rankin did finish with 5 receptions, 67 yards, leading the Elks, which is, at the Edmonton Elks, leading receivers, the running back. I think you probably prefer that 10 out of 10 times. So, great job by the BC Lions defense on that one. Ben Hladic obviously makes a play, which he had himself a little bit of a quieter game, you know, and then makes that play, the big splash play, almost took it in for the pick six, which would have been just bring that, kind of been the chef's kiss to the evening if you could have made a play like that. Obviously, James Butler punches it in on the very next play, so all is well, but pretty solid, effort and outing from the linebacking core in terms of Haladic and Alway. I thought Alway made a few plays as well in the run game and what was noticeable at times as well, bringing the physicality. And then, Deontay Williams was very noticeable actually at multiple times. He not only had arguably the hit of the season already in week one. Definitely the hit of week one by far. He jacked up the Edmonton Elks receiver, like absolutely neck this way, body this way. Um, that guy's gonna be sore in the morning. Tell you that much. He's gonna need some. Yeah, he's gonna need some. He's gonna need some serious ice bath remedies. He's gonna need the goods. Some good therapy for sure. Gonna need the rub down and all the goods. Ice bath, hot tub, you name it. That guy's gonna feel it in the morning. I believe he walked off the field though and took it like a. He was hurting, but he took it like a G. So shout out to that guy. But he got rocked by Deontay Williams, who made another phenomenal open field tackle on second down. Who the guy had definitely outflanked him, cut back, and could have, I think 9 times out of 10 he probably breaks that tackle as he's kind of Deontay Williams is all of his momentum is going towards the sideline, and the ball carrier kind of stopped his feet, could have cut back in for the first down, and Deontay Williams just wrapped him up in the open field tackle, brought him down. Deontay Williams is very noticeable at nickel or Sam linebacker for the BC Lions, so I think a good debut for him there. Excited to see him build on a good game number one. In the secondary, I thought they were pretty good. It was pretty interesting to see Gary Peters get tested early on. He made a play there, as I said, the second play of the ball game, offensively for the Edmonton Elks. Gary Peters almost ends up with an interception. He had another play where his receiver was the intended target, and he almost made a play on the football, but was pretty quiet other than that. Trey Ford, kind of struggled, unfortunately. 18 for 27, 178. Don't love to see it. Not going to panic right now. I don't love his receivers though, so I don't know if that sets him up for the best. And it's unfortunate because there's just not many excuses in year number three. You kind of have to none up or shut up now, especially with a guy like Cody Fajardo being there. At some point, I would think they just go with Cody and be like, let's see what Cody can do with these guys, especially if Cody can do something with those guys, then it might show the writings on the wall. Trey Ford might be a, we'll save that conversation for another day. Let's see what Trey Ford can do. So we're rooting for the kid here on the Canadian Football Fanatics, wanting to see Canadian kids do well in the CFL game. That's how we like it best. So let's talk about the secondary a little bit more. Other than that, I think they looked pretty good because it was a quiet afternoon. Other than that, they had a few busting coverage that were some big plays on the straightforward scrambles, but when that stuff happens, it's kind of all hell breaks loose, and you're just trying to either find a guy, track your guy down, or either maybe you have to go get Trey Ford. So things kind of happen fast in those situations. So offensively, like I said, I think all guys are going to kind of chip in terms of being productive, and one guy's going to kind of go off. Another guy's going to maybe have some medium production. Next course, there's going to be some big games where two guys go off for big yardage. JB, I thought had a solid game, by JB standards, but I think JB, looked good in light workload, but there's definitely be games at points this season where he gets dealt with a workload, I would say, when it comes to, 10 carries, 68 yards on the ground, with a touchdown, 3 receptions for 22 yards. So that's a total of 13 touches for 90 yards. Like I said, there's going to be times where his workload's going to be double, where he's going to have 26, 27, 28 touches, maybe even close to 30 touches in Buck Pierce's offense, especially when it comes time to September, October, November playoff football, hopefully in Grey Cup football. JB will have bigger workloads, and I think that's was maybe currently the reasoning of maybe not wanting to run him in the ground, as well as kind of script, right? It's down 7-3 at half. Tough to run the football much when you're trying to get things going, wanting to pass the ball. And then once you get the lead, obviously was able to run him a little bit, be productive. Obviously with what is that, about 6 yards per carry, something like that. JB pretty productive overall. And like I said, I think his workload could double at times. And it will double at times for sure. And I think we'll even maybe see some Xander Horvath. I was interested to see his workload. I know he did get some snaps in there on offense, and I don't believe he tallied a rush. Let me go check quickly. No, he did not. He did not. He was in there though. He was in on offense a little bit. I would love if the BC or if the CFL released snap counts. Maybe that's something I have to go do my personal self. Um. Anyways, talking about the offensive line, I thought they put together 3 good quarters? I thought the BC Lions offensive line put together 3 good quarters. The second quarter was iffy. Now, when I go back and rewatch, I'm gonna look to see were they bringing more blockers than we could block, what was going on in that second quarter, because things were definitely a little bit different compared to the rest of the game, because I think the rest of the game, Nathan had time. Nathan was in the third quarter was phenomenal with using his legs. We'll talk about Nathan in a little bit. Um, the offensive line, I thought, did well. Nathan didn't get hit. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx it, but if you understand what that means. Nathan did get hit downfield. Nathan didn't get hit by the line of scrimmage. That's all I'm going to say, because we don't want to jinx anything on the Canadian Football Fanatics. We're a little superstitious as a former quarterback, so I'm not wanting to mention that. That's all you need to know for now. Move on to the next one, especially with the Edmonton Elks free agent additions of bringing over the Edmonton Argos, Robbie Smith, Jake Serezna, Jared Brinkman, Sean Oakman on the edge, Jonathan Kongbo. I know in that rotation there's a few other guys. Pretty good D line, pretty good front 6-7 with Niles Morgan, Nick Anderson, obviously as well. They did a pretty good job keeping a contain on JB for the first half until he started to pick up steam in the second half. But the offensive line fared pretty well for the first quarter. They were moving. The offense was moving things, moving the chains. Third quarter, they engineered 2 quick scoring drives. The second scoring drive in the third quarter was what was that? Started from BC's the 3-yard line. So 107-yard drive for the BC Lions, marching it right down the field. Can't do that without the offensive line. So big shout out to the offensive line for their performance. It's only week 1. Hopefully they can build on from here. And who knows what happens with a guy like Una coming back. I think he's a little bit more. It wasn't as serious as I think everyone anticipated, or as everyone thought, with him wearing walking boot. Probably some precaution, obviously not wanting to swell up as bad as well until they get back up to Kamloops. It's awesome that he's already back practicing and stuff like that. And then obviously he already mentioned on Arrow Up. Big shout out to actually Nick Kowalski, Liam Thompson, Matt Baker once again. Arrow Up was fantastic, you guys. Watched it already twice. Watched it on did you guys release it on Friday? Yes, watched it on Friday when it released, or Thursday, one of the two, and then downloaded it for the ferry. Watched it on my ferry ride to kill some time. Was fabulous, unbelievable type stuff. Netflix, HBO, Hard Knocks, you guys name it. It is up there with that type of stuff. You guys are, of course, probably, if you're listening to this, BC Lions fans. If you guys are by chance CFL fans or Edmonton Elks fans, please go check out Arrow Up. It is fantastic. Oh, that's how. I was like, I don't know how I was talking about Arrow Up. As Una said in Arrow Up, the front office and BC Lions are not going to rush him back on the field with his ankle injury, so I don't think there's any rush in that. That being said, I thought the group of Jarrell Broxton, Corey Woodruff, Mike Couture, Chris Slugger, and Dejon Allen performed pretty well in their first game together. Obviously, in preseason they played together, but first regular season game all together as an offensive line. Now, folks, of course, you've probably been wondering, why have you waited so long to not talk about Nathan Rourke? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is because we talk about Nathan Rourke a lot on this channel, and we love Nathan Rourke on this channel. We are arguably Nathan Rourke's number one. No, I won't even say arguably, because there's a lot of advocates, supporters, fans of Nathan Rourke. We are big believers in Nathan Rourke, and there's a lot of silly, dumb, effing people out there that I have a lot of receipts of, and I know there's Lions Den, who has a lot of receipts he's already letting fly. He doesn't give a F. It's only one game, which I'm going to stay a little bit humble, because I know that's what Nathan would do. It's only one game, so we're gonna not, Usako. That being said, 27 to 36, 324, 3 touchdowns, 5 carries, and 54 yards on that ass. for you guys. Yeah, I'm talking to you. All those and haters that are gonna really love to see Nathan Rourke's performance and then be the ones that come around on Twitter and a lot of people know who they are of, man, Nathan Rourke is fantastic, and they're gonna come around to the bandwagon. And I would love to tell them to kick rocks. That being said, I would love anybody that loves Nathan Rourke, so you can come on over to the bandwagon. But until then, F the hell off. Nathan Rourke, as I said, 324 and 3 touchdowns. Should have been about 350 and 4 tuds on that, to be honest. As I said, Javon Couture dropping a touchdown. BC Lions kind of, up and down second quarter. It could have been a lot bigger night as the BC Lions continue to own the Edmonton Elks and Nathan Rourke. Not only is Nathan Rourke now 4-0, the BC Lions are 9-2 versus the Edmonton Elks since 2020. Nathan Rourke looked very comfortable early on in that first drive. As I said, marched him right down the field into scoring position. He comes out of the field, which he should never do. It's the unfortunate situation of short yardage and not wanting to hurt him too bad, or risk him, I guess I should say. You know, other than that, second quarter, I can't wait to go back and see what happened in terms of pressure, because that's more so what it looked like of, not Nathan looking uncomfortable, or the receivers not being open, or the offensive line not blocking good enough. It definitely looked like there was some pressure getting to him, and maybe I could be wrong in terms of the offensive line, maybe surrounding some stuff, and maybe some confusion in terms of, scheme and, um, you know, um, disguise in terms of the defense showing disguise, showing blitz, who's blitzing, that sort of thing. When it comes to Nathan Rourke, this is only the beginning of this year, folks, and I really feel like this is a big year in coming for Nathan Rourke. I love the tandem of him and Buck Pierce together. I love the early script from Buck Pierce, the play calling. I thought I got him into an early rhythm in terms of easy first read type of concepts, split the field in half, and some of them with the bootlegs and stuff like that he implemented. Get him some easy rhythm throws. I thought he did a good job with that. Unfortunately, I don't know if we got away from that in the second quarter. Like I said, I can't wait to go rewatch and see what happened. The third quarter, great play calling. The fourth quarter, obviously, with the McKinnis touchdown, was a fantastic drive. The JB touchdown, to be honest, was a walk-in. And the last one, maybe you could say we tried to ice the game, which we did a all right job, but not too much of a having you're trying to run clock at that point. I thought Buck Pierce did a pretty good job in his debut as offensive coordinator and head coach. Obviously, not too many situations came up when it came to having to juggle both challenges, etc., that sort of thing, timeouts, injuries per se, juggling personnel. I think he did a good job. So obviously, only game number one, but we will see. Nathan Rourke, I'm just super excited to see him back in the BC Lions uniform, slinging the ball, doing his thing at a high level, because I was a believer all along. I don't want to kind of sound like I'm sitting on my high horse, because it's something that I'm not trying to do, but it's just something very cool for me as a little leaguer, Canadian quarterback. I guess I could say, as playing Canadian Junior Football League for the Vancouver Island Raiders. Having obviously dreams to go play professional football, not getting particularly close, if I'm being honest, right? Being a career backup for the CGFL, or in the CGFL, being a contributor, right? Not to sell myself short. Obviously, a 4-1 record as a starter. I hold my always hold my proudly. I always say that proudly. But you know, to see a guy like Nathan Rourke, I can only imagine if I was 10 years old, the inspiration, the aspiration that would give me to want to go pro, to see that there's other Canadians that can do it. Growing up, I never really knew that that was possible, or ever saw it, right? I kind of was my own fault as well of not really thinking outside of Canada sometimes, or outside of kind of where you live and stuff at times, which is maybe you're a prisoner of where you kind of are. Um, I can't imagine how much little kids this is inspiring to pick up a football, play at a high level, whether it's quarterback or not. Trey Ford, obviously, the first time since 1968. Pete Olar and Cosentino. Um, Let me bring it up here, folks. The first time since August 20th, 1968. Ironically, when the BC Lions played the Edmonton Elks once again, Pete Olar and Frank Castino was the last time two Canadian quarterbacks started a game against each other. But this must just be inspiring a lot of young kids to pick up the football. You could see just with the amount of young kids that are back in the building at BC Place, it's phenomenal stuff, and I can't wait to see how Nathan Work tops his Week 1 performance, which is, I think, a sign of things to come, folks. So that's about 45 minutes, and I am tired as all heck, and it is 2:17 in the morning. I'm recording this for you guys, so I hope you guys appreciate this. Because if you guys can't tell, with the bags in my eye, how heavy my eyes feel. I'm tired because I took the ferry over to Vancouver this morning. I walked around Vancouver, ate some lunch, did a few things for the Instagram, went to the stadium, enjoyed a fabulous concert, enjoyed a wonderful game, and then took a ferry back. I literally sat down and watched the post-game interviews for about 20 minutes. I wrote down a couple notes. I hit record, and I am about to hit unrecord, and I'm going to jump in bed, get super cozy, and enjoy my Sunday with a nice rewatch of the game. It was supposed to be another Sunday of flag football. I'm glad things are changing a little bit. Next Sunday is going to be playoffs. Super excited for that. The BC Lions play on Thursday. Expect our preview to be out on Tuesday/Wednesday. We'll see how things turn around with the quick turnaround. Might have to be a Wednesday turnaround with how things are going. That being said, you will get a preview this week once again. We'll do a post-game show, of course. Maybe this week will be even live because it's a Thursday. And then, as I said, wish Cole some luck. Next Sunday, flag football playoffs for the kid. Of course, next week is week number 2 in the CFL. Can't wait for it. Follow us on the Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at _CF Fanatics on Twitter. Of course, like the video. Comment down below what you guys thought of the Week 1 victory for the BC Lions. If you guys were at the game, how you guys thought of the game, the atmosphere, the concert, what was your favorite part, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel, of course. We will, of course, will the preview will be out. We will also be live on the weekly show over on the 13th Man Sports YouTube channel with Shane, Coach, myself, and Blake, as we are every Wednesday night throughout the CFL season, talking CFL football. We'll be recapping all things week 1 and obviously previewing week number 2. Blake and I will be talking our ish as well as Coach. And as of now, I guess Shane is the lone loser in the group, and it is only week number 1. But as Buck Pierce said in his post-game availability, it's okay to enjoy the victory. So shout out to Coach Buck getting his first career victory as a first-time head coach in the Canadian Football League. Super cool accomplishment. I think that does it for a pretty good post-game show, folks. So if you guys enjoy, like I said, like the video, comment down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.